Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to PLZ Soccer and Peter and Roughie's Football Show. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Rough, Steven Naismith and Alison McConnell here with me. Delighted you could join us on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. If you're on Facebook, don't forget to share the stream and hit the follow button and join our football family. And you can do that also on our YouTube channel as well. Great to have you along. Lots to talk about. Last night's results in the Premiership in Scotland made things a little clearer as far as third place in the table. Relegation, but there's still something to be determined in the playoff. What a night it was, Roughie. I made the long journey up to Dingwall to watch Ross County against Hamilton. It was bite your nails stuff. In the end, heartbreak for Hamilton, Roughie.
Yeah, it certainly was. They put a lot into it in the last month or so, up against it most of the time, but they've dug in and just did what they usually do. You know, unfortunately, it never worked this time. I think the game was pretty evenly matched at certain stages. Both teams had chances. And it seems to be in the last 2 or 3 weeks, it doesn't matter what team you're in, you take your chances and you move on. And unfortunately for them, a couple hit the bar, a couple hit the post, and it's just not happened for them this year. But I have to give Hamilton credit. They've said all along, you know, if it happens, it happens. We won't change anything. We'll still bring players through. We'll still keep doing what we're doing. And I do believe they'll do that, you know, so they'll have to bite the bullet and take the drop that comes along, but I'm sure they'll still be fighting.
Yeah, it started off well for them. They went ahead, couldn't hold on to the lead. I think a minute later it was Ross County equalised, and then, of course, they got the eventual winner in the match. I have to say, at the end of the game, it was a very emotional Brian Rice who succumbed to the fact that the Ackies were heading down.
I have to explain, you know, we're used to being the underdogs. We're used to being the team that everybody says will go down. So eventually they've been proven right. Eventually, you know. So we need to take it on the chin, and we need to regroup, and we need to make sure that we're ready to go as soon as the new season kicks off.
Yeah, I mean, he was in the stand, Stephen. He is one of those managers. You know, a lot of people, players like him as well. He's got a whole group of youngsters there that he wants to play. That's Hamilton Accies' ethos. I get that. It looks as if he's missing the odd 1 or 2 bits of experience that could be managers on the field of play. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think I'd agree with that. I think the club as a whole, they're not going to go away from their model of how they produce players, bring them in the first team, and also try and pick up players who are on the periphery of the game. So that going into next season and going down, that won't be a massive issue for them. It'll be tough to come back up, but I think, like you said, they're over the years of market time in football, they have had that 1 or 2 plus Imre, Alec Neil, if you go back further, who ran the dressing room, probably let everybody know what it meant, and as the manager spoke about there, the underdogs tag, they worked that well throughout the season, and that's why they've had so many years in the Premier League. I think that is what was missing this season, and they've had wee spells, but I think what hasn't helped them as well is that Ross County and Kilmarnock have changed their manager, and also they got that slight bounce that new manager comes in does.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you make, because I thought it would have been a bigger bounce, Alison, for John Hughes. In the end, he was absolutely having to drag every ounce of energy and belief that they could escape the relegation place automatically. They've still got a bit to do.
Exactly, they're not there yet, but I agree. I think it's just been a very difficult season with quite exceptional circumstances for all teams this term. But when you look at the COVID issues that have come up that Hamilton have had to deal with, in addition to losing a few emerging young talents, I think Lewis Smith has missed the bulk of the season. I thought he had an interesting and an intriguing campaign last term. When you're denied key personnel like that and you don't really have the resources to compensate for it, I think it was always going to be very difficult. I think they've probably got the lowest budget in the league. I think Brian Rice had made a point some months back of saying that even when it came to championship clubs, they would find it difficult to compete at times. So they've been up against it in that sense. And I think throw in the COVID problems, I think they've been up against it for almost the entirety of the season. But I think you have to applaud what they've done. They're a club who have been in the top flight for 7 successive seasons. It's a pretty outstanding achievement given what they've got.
Yeah, and picking up on that point, Alison, I think I'll get the guys' thoughts on as well. But you highlighted something there, which I think Brian Rice was quick to point out. And I had a couple of long chats with him about this. They were awarded points for the Motherwell debacle, then suddenly get that taken off them again, if you remember rightly. You've talked about the fact that they've got a small squad. They were also in a situation where they should have been playing against an Aberdeen side, and the goalposts were moved on the COVID situation there. They rearranged game against Aberdeen. Suddenly they had 7 players out, and they asked the SPFL if they could have that game stopped, and they were told no. So, I think Brian Rice got that real sense that, over the course of the season, there was one rule for some teams and one rule for another, and most of the time it was going against them.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that.
Yeah,
I think it was just...
On you go, sorry, Alison. On you go.
On you go, no, on you go.
I was going to say, ask Stevie what an injustice is, and the twos will tell you what it feels like. So I can exactly see where Chipper's coming from. All these things add up. You just take your mind off the game. Is it maybe if you hadn't hit the bar, you'd have won it. But when you sit down in the darkened room and you think about all these things that you've just come away with, that they're the things you're going to believe that would have saved you, and they possibly would have done. And it's just something you have to, as he said, bite the bullet.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, Ross County, they now know that if they get a point at the weekend, they are safe from any possible playoff. But it's going to be harum scarum for them on that one. John Hughes just delighted that they took their big chance last night.
We've had to really galvanise it, get them together, start putting demands on them, and I've had a great response. I've said that you don't get the results that we have had in terms of, Celtic and Aberdeen and Hibs and one or two other results for no reason, to give yourself a chance to stay in the Premier League. So when that chance comes along, like tonight, I'm absolutely delighted we took it.
Yeah, I always thought they were going to get the edge on this one, Stephen, but he did highlight something there which I think sometimes we forget. I thought they were going to get more out of the players because John, I like as a manager, I like the way he plays his football. But when you think of some of the scalps they've taken along the way this season, they really shouldn't be where they are at the moment.
I agree. And the only thing I would say about John Hughes is he's a manager who has a style and he works to that style no matter what. And another example of that is Callum Davidson coming in at St Johnstone. It takes a bit of time for that to actually come to the forefront and be fluent within the squad. So I think that's partly what's happened in terms of that bounce you were talking about. But the teams they have beaten, especially at home, have been very good. I think for them and Kilmarnock definitely have that wee bit more quality than Hamilton do. I think everybody over the course of the last month or so expected Hamilton would be the one that would be at the bottom. I must say I did think Kilmarnock would have been in a better position. Now it's looking likely they're going to be the ones in the playoff. But Ross County, John Hughes is a good experienced manager, plays good football, and we all know the type of character he is. He's going to get the maximum out of any squad that he's involved with.
And of course, he's such a really warm character, and good fun as well. Roughie, he did mention in the aftermatch interview last night. He's been working that hard. He hasn't seen his wife in 4 months, and I just reminded him that she was okay and everything's fine down there, which brought a smile to his face in the most tense of circumstances. Because Roughie, that's the name. It's his best pal. He's relegated. And there's times when you want to laugh and you want to just let it all out, but the stress is unbelievable for those managers.
Yeah, it must have been difficult for the two of them. They've been all around Scotland, as a partnership. They know each other inside out, and obviously socially as well, I would imagine. So for him to get his head round that, and I did see an interview that he did that you could see he really felt sorry for Chipper. But he's been there before himself, and he knows that he'll be strong enough to to come back again. But you're right, you know, it's these kind of things in football that the outsider doesn't see. They don't see that personal touch or that private touch, and these kind of situations bring it out in a lot of people.
We'll be talking about Celtic and Rangers coming up on the programme and their performances last night. Stephen, you touched on Kilmarnock. It was one of those situations Ali and I know only too well, when you're constantly looking at your phone or your computer, and then all of a sudden you start to see the battery drain and you're thinking, I'm in trouble here for this job. Last night was one of those situations, Stephen. As the goals started flying in, you're just constantly referencing your computer or your phone on what's going to happen in Killie. You know, at one minute I'm thinking to myself, God, they're right in the mire here. And then in the end, you get a 6-goal thriller, and St Mirren, like we mentioned earlier in the week, were up for it.
They were. It was a rerun of the cup game. The two teams defensively won't be happy with how they defended. Two good attacking teams going forward. And yeah, it was very entertaining. I thought when Kilmarnock go 2 up, and obviously from being at Kilmarnock before, I'm thinking, your beauty, they'll kind of see this out. And what I find difficult to accept is that over a short period of time, if you think back to when Steve Clarke was the manager of Kilmarnock, how solid their defensive unit was, and probably not over a short one manager or so, but over a period of time, it's just obviously got worse and worse and worse. Hence why they're down the bottom. But it was really frustrating to see that they were 2-0 up. Big Laugh started well and continued on what he's been doing, and you think that gives him the buzz when you know what's at stake. And for it to pan out the way it has, in all honesty, I think they'll finish 11th and be in that playoff spot. But it puts you in a real difficult situation when you're going to play a team in the Championship who are full of confidence because they've just come through the playoffs. So it's a very tough one for Kilmarnock to take.
Yeah, and suddenly they are at Hamilton on Sunday, I beg your pardon, and you've got Ross County going down to Lanarkshire to Motherwell as well. So, it is one of those days for the trannies, Alison.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there'll be intrigue and there'll be drama. I think it would be nice for us as observers for it to go to the last day. I think we've watched quite a few of these final day dramas play out, but we know that Hamilton are down and out. It just you do wonder what kind of performance that they'll put in on Sunday afternoon now, because it's huge for Kilmarnock. And like Stephen, I think it'll be Kilmarnock that go into the playoffs now.
Tommy Wright reckons goals is the key.
Going forward, again, we look a good threat, and I think that's good to have going into the last game of the season where we've still got a chance. We knew it wouldn't be decided tonight. We knew we need somebody to do us a favour, and but we've got to take care of business at Hamilton. If we win that game and Motherwell win, then we'll stay up. If not, I believe the way we're playing, we can go into the playoff game with a lot of confidence.
Well, he knows what's at stake. Of course, the other thing, Roughie, which Scott Struthers, who works tirelessly for Hamilton over the years, he did walk past me at one point at the end when everybody was dejected and said, "You do know a 10-goal swing, if Hamilton were to win 10-0, then we're safe." And I thought, now there is an optimistic man in the middle of a complete nightmare. Although, Roughie, dare I say to you, do you remember the time I
was going to say that.
Gordon Smith and I were up at Dundee for a game, and Morton and Hamilton had to win by an absolute barrel load, and at one point they were thumping Morton by 10-2.
Yeah, I remember the angry response from a couple of comments that were up there as well. But no, we all know these things can happen, but I don't think in this instance it's going to happen. He'll have to pick Hamilton up. I mean, the Hamilton dressing room this morning, if they were in, would be desperate, So I'm going to disagree with Nazy and Alison. I think Kilmarnock have got it all to do. And if it was a normal game, Motherwell versus Ross County, I'd fancy Motherwell. So I think we're still going to be hanging on to our trannies near the end of the game, because I think there's still twists and turns and this one's still to go. And I don't think either of the two of them will want to end up in that playoff place, because Dundee look as if they've got their act together.
Yeah, and for the benefit of people nowadays, because the 21st century, lots of people like to complain, trannies is an old word for radio, just in case you thought Roughie was involved in something a little bit dodgy. But nevertheless, it's for the older people. It's a transistor radio. Don't know why I bothered there. It just came into my head. I need to go for help. Anyway, apart from anything else, I think Ross County will be involved in the playoff. Just a gut feeling. I've got a sense that Kelly can do something against the Accies, and Ross County will be in the playoff. And then, of course, we'll talk about Dundee later on, because the big question is, did Steven Naismith vote for Charlie Adam in the Player of the Year in that division? All will be revealed. Don't miss it. The other decision that was going to be made was, of course, Aberdeen against Hibs, Ali. In the end, the Highbees, I didn't see it coming. I thought Aberdeen would really want to again put on a fight, but Chris Doidge's 13th goal of the season, bang, 1-0 win.
And that's cemented the third place. It's been an extraordinary campaign for them when you consider that they could now go and win the Scottish Cup too. I think it's been an excellent season. I think they'll be delighted with it. Like you, I thought Aberdeen just might have galvanised themselves for the running. I've been surprised. It's still been a bit inconsistent. But I don't think you can take anything away from Jack Ross and what they've achieved this term.
Yeah, well done to the Hibbies. Third place finish, absolutely fantastic. Scottish Cup final, it could be the mother of all seasons for them, Roughie, as well.
Yeah, we keep talking about St Johnson's manager, but I think now the Hibs manager comes into that category as well. Obviously, he's got to win the cup, but with the obviously disappointment in the semi-finals and being third, that's an absolutely tremendous season in any book if you go on and win the cup. So yeah, he'll be really eager, for the start of next season. I think the only problem he'll have is worrying which ones the owner is going to sell, to sort of balance the books a wee bit. I think the fans will be desperately anxious as well to find out who it is that's going to leave and who's going to stay. So from that aspect, I think they'll just be looking forward to the final and deal with anything that comes after it.
Yeah, Stevie, Rangers and the Juggernaut just marches on 3-0 against Livingston. And, you now would look at them and think they're going to have the perfect season, unbeaten in the league. That's the last game against Aberdeen. And I would lay your mortgage on them completing a win there and a great season for Steven Gerrard.
Exactly. I think being in that position when the league's won, last day of the season, normally the weather's good and you know what's coming after the game. It's very rarely do you put on a bad show, so I fully expect the same. They'll go the full season, which in top of what they have achieved is an incredible statement. I think that's a good thing to marker that how well they have done. It's not like everybody's been saying that Celtic have had an off season and Rangers have been the guys who have been there to win it. Rangers have went out this season, dominated, won it, and we spoke lyrical about Celtic doing it in the past, and I think you've got to hold Rangers in the same regard because it's some achievement to go the season unbeaten. I thought last night's they probably play Livingston at a good time where Livingston's kind of season's done. They've achieved what they wanted to and had a good season, and because it's a notoriously tricky place to go.
Yeah, and with that in mind, as we get to the last game coming up, are you still definitive on who the Player of the Year is?
Yeah, for me, I think with Alan McGregor being in that group, he deserves it because in such a strong team, to have a goalie be up there is a great achievement. So I still would hold my cards and say that Griggs is the man.
Yeah, of course, on Saturday, quite a lot of Rangers fans will be looking and thinking it'll be a great chance to go and celebrate outside the stadium and, of course, then march to George Square, as some fans groups have suggested. It's not a good idea, especially off the back of news that, in some areas in Glasgow, there is an increase in COVID due to this Indian variant. Rangers have released a statement regarding any possible gathering of supporters. And it says this Saturday will be a historic day in the illustrious history of our 150-year-old institution. It's been a long journey over the past 10 years, and we would not have achieved 55 without the loyalty and support of our fan base. It's a day to enjoy and to celebrate the achievements of our club and the title win by Steven Gerrard and his team. However, we are cognizant that the battle against COVID-19 is far from over and the virus is still alive. It hasn't gone away. Please celebrate this historic day for our club in a safe and sensible manner, respecting public safety, adhering to the current government restrictions. Please be mindful of the guidelines regarding gathering in large numbers. If possible, please celebrate within your own community. We thank you for your unrivaled support and look forward to welcoming you back to our stadium. I think the need is to be sensible about it. And as you mentioned, Roughie, a gala day or some open day for all the fans to come in and celebrate that title win at a later date when everybody's guaranteed a bit of safety would be great.
Yeah, it seems to be the sensible thing. Obviously, if people were to turn up at the weekend, you'd be talking, 2,000 or 3,000, and there's a lot more Rangers supporters out there would want to join in that celebration. So I just think an open day at Ibrox, 60,000 free to get in. You put on a spectacular day, as the big clubs can, with the fireworks and everything that goes with it, and you meet the players. It would be a fantastic day. It would be just something that all the fans can say, okay, let's not do it the weekend. We know it's in the book. Let's wait for that day and let's go and make it a fantastic day out.
Yeah, you love mentioning the fireworks, Roughie, don't you? You've mentioned them every week on this programme.
It seems to be the year. It seems to be the year of the firework this year. Yeah. I have to say, even we had a red, yellow, and black one at our game. So, unfortunately, wow. The police stopped that, as you can imagine. So, I think every club just caught on to it now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, especially at your club, I can see the headline, Alison, now. West End boy denies himself bottle of rare wine to buy fireworks. Incredible. That's a shocker. Thistle fans will be up in arms about that one. Anyway, I'm surprised Roughie was able to get a hold of fireworks, because it looks as if the Rangers fans have bought the entire collection in Scotland. They've been going off every day. Anyway, so that's the good part of football, providing, of course, you're not all setting them off, cuddling each other. Apart from anything else, Rangers got the win. They're one away from the entire season unbeaten domestically. Celtic, last home game, Scott Brown obviously would have been emotional seeing all the tributes from the supporters. He was going in to play his last home game as Celtic captain, walking out to an empty stadium. And that in itself, I think most of the Celtic fans would love to have been there, and not really befitting of a man who spent 14 years at Celtic. All the fans would have loved to have said goodbye to him. Listen, next year when they do get the chance, Stevie, he'll be in an Aberdeen strip.
He will, so, and it'll be strange for a lot of fans. But for Bruni, it's not a great way to go out in terms of not having the fans. I think last night went as well as it could have in terms of the result, the performance, and also the gesture from the club and the backroom staff and everything like that. Also during the week, you see that the fans have put on some tributes and that for him, but for what he's done for the club, he deserves that, to go out in glory and have everybody basically having the full day for himself. So it's not great for him, but I'm sure next year when Aberdeen come to Celtic Park, they'll make him feel welcome and show him the kind of round off he deserves.
Yeah, it was a 4-0 win last night, and John Kennedy reckons that was indeed the perfect send-off for him if they couldn't have fans in.
That was big for us in terms of, that was the motivation probably, in terms of finding motivation. When you come towards the end of the season, there's not a lot to play for. It was quite easy tonight. Scott leading the team out for the last time here at Celtic Park, so it was important that we all put in a performance, or the team put in a performance that sent them off in the right manner, which we certainly did.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to believe, Alison, when you look back on it. 14 years, he's had 22 trophies, and as was highlighted last night, a treble, a double treble, a treble, a quadruple treble. That's some feat for a captain.
I think his return's extraordinary. I don't think it'll be achieved by any other player in the modern era. I think anyone to spend 14 seasons at one club goes against the grain now. I think it's It's been an incredible run for him. It's been laden with success. He's grown into the captain's role. I think at Celtic, I think there were quite a few always surprised when he was given the armband, but I think he's matured into the role. I think his influence both on and off the park has been there to see. And I have to say, I was quite surprised at the decision that he made this season. I thought he would have been important for Celtic to keep hold of just as you transition from one era at the club to another. I think there'll be a host of changes in personnel, both in terms of players and management, but also behind the scenes this summer. I think there'll be so many changes to key roles. I thought it would have been good for the club and good to keep that level of continuity and someone with a bit of leadership and direction. So I was surprised that he announced his decision to go, and I think he'll be quite a huge miss. Not just, I think you can see now that the legs are beginning to go and his playing career is coming to a close, but I think in terms of what he gives to players round about him, I think there'll be a void there for Celtic to look and try and fill.
Yeah, I think most of his teammates were very appreciative of the gesture that the fans made last night. Here's James Forrest.
I came off with him, and it was good to get the fans back. You get a wee boost, and obviously it was good for him there that they turned up, and he deserves everything he gets and what everyone says about him, because how much he's done for this club, and as I said, he's worked so hard and achieved so much.
Yeah, well done to Scott Brown. Just a last word on this, Roughie, picking up on what Alison said there. I'm not surprised that Scott made the decision, to move on without a new manager wanting to come in and try and re-energise him again, while making it a minimal role, more or less, as a new manager tries to build his side. Scott Brown has to think of Scott Brown and what he wants to do as a coach. So to get that little spark and maybe give the Aberdeen players a little sprinkling of what it's like to be a winner, because I think that Aberdeen side needs completely and utterly routed out.
Yeah. Well, we're not privy to what was going on behind the scenes. I'm sure Scott Brown had lots of chats with Celtic about what his future was and what their future was, and maybe some of the things he heard he wasn't 100% behind. I have to say, I was surprised it was Aberdeen. I would have went for Hibs. I would have thought going back to Hibs would have been more appeasing to him. But obviously Aberdeen have obviously told him what the future is up there, the new stadium, their new manager and the way they're going down. So it's an individual decision, and Scott's made that, but it did, I have to say, it did take me a bit surprised. It was Aberdeen was his choice.
Yeah, absolutely. Just one other point, and again, for a level of consistency on this, I think any group who gather anywhere against the regulations deserve any punishment that's coming their way. That's the first thing. I wasn't at Celtic Park last night. If there were fans gathering outside and were breaking the rules, then I'm sure they'll be met with any punishment that the police were handing out. One of the things that reared its ugly head, though, Alison, is something that, politics and sport, they say it shouldn't mix, but it does. The Celtic took down some Palestinian banners at the game last night before it all kicked off. It was in the corner where the Green Brigade usually congregate. My personal opinion is that I don't think you should use a club as a platform to put across politics. I think Celtic have been very consistent on that, despite the anger towards the club from some supporters. If you feel strongly about something that's happening politically, then go and march elsewhere. Don't use the club as your platform.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I think they were allowed in good faith, because there was an invitation to show an appreciation for the captain at a time when no fans are allowed into the stadium. I have mixed views on it, to be honest. I think sport and politics have been intertwined for a long time. I think sport sometimes has been a useful vehicle for political viewpoints, but also you can understand why the club were upset about it and why they removed the flags, because it was it had gone against what the invitation had been for. I think if the political message is is unoffensive in terms of the banners and flags that are there, then there is a case to be made for it in terms of support. But equally, I could see where the club were coming from, because it wasn't. I think they felt maybe that they'd been taken advantage of in terms of allowing them in to put out Scott Brown banners, and it was something that had gone against that.
An interesting one. We all have our own opinion on it. At the end of the day, you have offered yours on our social media platforms, but it's well worth mentioning because it reared its head last night and it's worthy of opinion. Rightly or wrongly, you can make up your own decision on it. We try and talk about football as much as we can, but there are areas where I think it just veers off into some people will be offended by something, and others feel strongly that they should be allowed to put across their message of support or otherwise for certain things that are going on in the world. As far as St Johnstone are concerned, they had a few worries last night, and Callum Davison's quick to point out that COVID is still affecting his St Johnstone squad ahead of the cup final.
I think it was difficult. I think obviously come to Parkhead, I'm not going to harp on about it. We've not trained. We haven't done anything. So the players have just played from Sunday and came straight here. So really difficult as a professional athlete to do that. But we obviously had to make sure we're all trying to be safe as we can just now in our current position. So, I was actually delighted. It sounds really stupid. We got beat 4-0, but I thought the attitude of the players was fantastic.
Yeah, well, listen, when you're in your second cup final, Roughie, you can actually say, I was absolutely delighted with a 4-0 gubbing.
Yeah, and we discussed it yesterday, and we didn't know what way they were going to go down. Obviously, that as soon as that COVID hit last week, you could see the panic in everybody. Nobody knew who the players were, how many it had affected. So Johnson are quite right. They've got a massive game coming up next week, and why not protect your players, and do everything in your power that it doesn't happen again. Not just for the club, but for the players. The players that missed that semi-final, I think a couple of them might play in the final. And it's a big, big day for them as well. So, St Johnstone have every right to do what they want with their team with the next game coming up.
Yeah, Roughie, just a wee quick one. I don't know if you're aware of it, but with Dundee United drawing 2-2 against Motherwell last night, what a fantastic night I had in the head-to-head. Suddenly, it is squeaky bum time for Tam. He is raging. Because, and
Yes.
at one point, I think it was about the 75th minute mark in the game up at Dingwall, I looked at my phone, Roughie, and I thought, oh, you dancer, I'm on 24 points here. I've won it. And then some Egypt went and scored another goal somewhere, but I had a good night, Roughie.
Yeah, it was Kilmarnock. Both of us had Kilmarnock 2-1. And at 75 minutes, it was 10 points in the bag. And the bold Tam had only 4. So, no, he's panicking. He's got a 7-point lead getting into the game. But if he's going to make these crazy predictions he made last night, we might still have a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. We will add Rangers 3-0 as well, Roughie. So I had 10 points. I was absolutely flying. I'm going to, and I think it's only right and proper, Roughie, we all put our predictions in an envelope, seal the envelope, and then hand it over to each other so that we legitimately know there's no jiggery-pokery ahead of it. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think it's fair, but I mean, as you know, I'm out and about, and all the listeners want to know on air. They want to be in it. They want to know. They want to know as well. There's no jiggery-pokery going on, so I think we'll have to do it live.
We'll shout it out live, but as long as we get the envelope first, Roughie, I don't want you spread betting and assessing everybody's predictions. Anyway, Tam, I can tell you, is panicking because, as you know, Stephen, the loser takes the others out for an all-expenses meal with an expensive bottle of red wine. And quite simply, if Tam loses, it's not exactly going to be a great night out for me, Roughie, because the Blue Lagoon and a bottle of Blue Nun is not my idea of fun up Sauchiehall Hall Street,
Perfect timing. The drinking can go on longer now.
That's right. And of course, at the end of it, Roughie and we can hug him as well, which is great. Anyway, here's how the table is looking with just one game left in the Scottish Premiership. Rangers runaway champions and title day against Aberdeen, and they will enjoy that. What a season it's been for Steven Gerrard. Absolutely magnificent. So many plaudits to them and so many great performances from the players right across the board. But at the bottom end of that table, Roughie, it's one of those ones again that the finish to it would be fantastic if you could get fans into it. It would have been superb just to see the tension in the ground as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'd be fantastic. And as you keep saying, there's got to be highs and lows, and there's got to be people who are being dedicated to these clubs for the process of their whole life, and to see them get relegated is too much. The one I keep remembering is the Man City one, where the cameras flicked back from one team to another, and even when the game was finished, there was guys in the terrace and just sitting there crying, and then all of a sudden somebody told them that they'd won, and to go to from a low to a high, it was just fantastic seeing them all. But it will happen at the weekend, there's no doubt about it. Players and supporters, and it's hard for the supporters, as you say, not to be there, so they'll have to deal with it, whether it's on a stream or whatever, and sitting in the house. So as you say, keep all valuables away for the television, because it might be that kind of weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you've got the television up on your wall and you try and get your leg up to it. The other thing I was going to say, I'm not sure about you, but I think a lot of people have got some crazy ideas. I don't know about you, Stephen. You've got an honest moment coming here. Alison, I think Alison, as I know her so well, will duck and dive with this question. Craig Jack says, yes, chips and cheese all round. Because if you are roaming about Glasgow at 1 and 2 in the morning after a session, I don't know about you, Ali, but I automatically used to think to myself, right, I'm completely hammered. I've got my taxi money ready, but I need to find somewhere that sells pizza. But I'm not sure it was chips and cheese. Were you a chips and cheese girl?
Pakora and pizza, I'm sure, just to soak up the alcohol. Sure you were ready to go the next morning.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the other great thing about it, Roughie, is, because I was from Lanarkshire and I knew I had to get a taxi, I loved stoating about George Square and then lying on one of the benches until I could phone a taxi. But unfortunately, there are no benches there at the moment. They're getting replaced.
You need to find somewhere else.
I think we'll have to find somewhere else for you, me, and Tam to get a taxi. Stevie, what kind of person were you? Couple of celery sticks and then just run home, yeah?
Just about to say that. It was a nightmare trying to find a Caesar salad, man, at 3 in the morning. So, to be honest, no, the nearest takeaway for me.
Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely. I knew you were a normal lad. Absolutely. Listen, are you voting for Charlie Adam? Did you see his 3 passes last night? First one, world class. Second pass, out of this world. Third one, I'm thinking, have a word with yourself. He was unbelievable.
It wasn't. I think, to be fair, the wee month before there, where he wasn't in a team, and he spoke about when he's not in a team, he's not happy. I think he had that wee bit between his teeth, because the passes were sensational. The vision to see it, the quick for the through ball, for the second goal, the vision as he kind of stops to just gain that yard was brilliant. But that's Charlie. Charlie's got a wonder left foot, could play. When he's playing fives with you guys in the future, he'll be doing the same. So it's expected from him, but it was a fine performance.
If he's going to do the fives, they better hire 3 pitches, because it's usually 40
the only thing
yards
is,
travels.
Exactly. I'll know if somebody on the end it.
Well, Stephen, I was just about to say to you, you're kind of overstating the matter. There's going to be a runner who's anticipating the pass. There's no runners on our 5-a-side team. It's in defeat.
And what made you, Stevie? What made you think that he wasn't happy about not getting picked?
I did see an interview somewhere. He made it crystal clear.
Absolutely. Big shyness. He said, I thought his best line on the programme was, big games, big players. Simple as that, There you are. That, honestly, I kid you not, Stevie said that on the programme. I thought, there you go.
I heard it, and he's pulled it out of the bag last night.
Brilliant, brilliant, absolutely. Have you voted for him?
Yes.
Oh, well, fair play to you, by the way. Here's the nominees.
No, I didn't
I know
actually.
There's Liam Boyce, Charlie, Craig Gordon as well in the mix. There are three good options, and let's not forget, of course, you know when you consider the quality of those three who are what you would consider the elder statesmen. You haven't voted for Charlie. I don't think you can vote for your own player either. And then, of course, I watched him last night. I've watched him a few times as well. Regan Hendry. What do you make of the four, Stevie?
I think all four of them do deserve it. I actually voted for Henry. I thought over the course of the season, Wraith for me have been the best team we've came up against, and he's fundamental to what they do in terms of how brave they are to play. And even in the game, the goal they get chopped off comes from his build-up play to create the chance effectively. So, yeah, the four of them all deserve to be there. I think Craigie again put in the mix, same as Alan McGregor in the Premier League. A goalie in the mix when we've been the team that kind of won the league says a lot because he has saved us a few points over the course of the season.
Yeah, who gets your vote, Roughie?
It's a goalie clean sweep for me, every division. I think all the goalies will be up there this year, and I put it to bed that you don't need one. Our goalies shouldn't get these kind of awards. So, love to see what people say to that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can hear us if all the goalies lose the vote at the end. We'll be back on to tell you. Ali, where's your money going?
Mine would go for Charlie. I think he just had a wee bit of quality. I know he's been in and out of the team, but I think he's just shown his aptitude, and I think he's really helped Dundee get to where they are just now.
Yeah, it's a big call, Stephen, because if they play in the playoff against Kilmarnock or Ross County and then get into the Premiership, he's got a big call like yourself. He's getting on. He wants to coach as well. He might have a big decision to make like you.
They will do, without a shadow of a doubt. I think at our age, you get at the end of the season, and it is how you feel. I think for him, his performances recently have been really good, and on top of it, it's now guys are. I would say Dundee are the best equipped team to play in the playoff. I think Wraith is the best team we've come up against, but Dundee as a team, they're streetwise enough, they've got enough experience, and they've got some real quality. Recent times that's helped Charlie, having some better players in the team round about him. But no, for Charlie, he'll know what he wants to do over a course of time. He is interested in the coaching. He wanted to play with Dundee, be successful, take them up. Then does he want to finish it in the Premier League and have a season there? He's got a few questions to answer, really.
Yeah. Roughie, I know sometimes we're guilty of all moaning if somebody makes a decision one way or they go the other way. We always find room to moan about it. UEFA have confirmed that the Champions League final will take place in Porto's Dragao Stadium in Portugal. I've been there. It's a fantastic stadium. But surely they should have said Wembley, on the basis that we are in the middle still of, some countries being, on the red list. Surely 12,000 fans should not have had to leave this country.
Yeah, you'd think that would have been the sensible thing. It would also been a sensible thing to try Wembley out with the Euros coming up, experiment in the occasion and see if things are working or things aren't working, and to have people travelling. I know Portugal's okay to travel. You can go there if you like, but the amount of supporters from both clubs who want to see that game, I mean, it could have been just a recipe for disaster. So I think the sensible thing would have been to hold it at Wembley, but UEFA just don't do sensible things, do they?
Yeah, I mean, why would you want to get in? Why would you want to get on an airplane, Alison? I mean, there's lots of us want to go on holiday, but we're worried about getting into an airplane, in a compressed chamber. That's a problem. Anywhere lots of people say to me, anywhere where you're in an enclosed space with people, you're under a bit of pressure, which is why we are still in 4 boxes here.
Yeah, I agree with Roughie. I think the common sense thing to do would have been to localise it. And it was easy to do this season because you've got 2 teams two English teams in the final. I think in the middle of a pandemic, it makes no sense to have teams travelling, to have people travelling. We're going to have it obviously the following month with the European Championships as teams and countries try and stay in their bubbles. But I think it would have been a vote for common sense to go for Wembley. I'm not sure about what the thinking would have been behind it. But yeah, as Roughie says, sometimes there are decisions made that leave us all scratching our head a bit. But I feel for so many people, because there'll be people watching this show, there'll be people out there reading this story who know that they've maybe not seen loved ones who live in other countries who have been restricted in terms of travel, and it seems quite a frivolous way to board an aircraft and go just for a game of football.
Yeah. Stephen, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this little bit here, because sometimes history starts to alter our thoughts on certain individuals in sport, their contribution to the rich tapestry of, in this case, football. There's a constant argument that goes on, who's the greatest player ever to play the game? Some think Pele, which is a category I fall into. Some think it's Diego Maradona. And then of the modern era, anybody who is born of a certain vintage looks and said, look, Messi's fantastic. I just wonder if maybe history will be kinder towards the contribution of Ronaldo, because the Portuguese is just unbelievable. Last night he scored a century of goals for 3 different clubs. I mean, it's phenomenal. He's won in 3 different countries the top award. He's won the Champions League. He's won the Ballon d'Or on countless occasions. He's won the European Championships with Portugal. I just do not know whether we're being unkind because he's a bit of a poser to Ronaldo as one of the absolute top players ever.
Yeah, I think that is the case. I think, especially for everybody in Britain or everybody watching the Premier League, with the way the world's went, social media and everything like that, we have seen this guy being that teenager, the wiry teenager who was more interested in throwing his legs over the ball 6 times and beating a guy 4 times and then putting it over the bar, to becoming arguably the best footballer and athlete ever to play the game. From ultimate footballer, I'm saying there's no better ever in that played the game. He's powerful, he's tricky, he can head the ball, he's fast, he's got every attribute you want as a footballer, and that's why the numbers speak for themselves. I put him right. I prefer Messi out the two of them, but I put him right up there with the best in the game ever. And his dedication to the game, I would argue that there's not been a footballer more dedicated to the game of football than him.
Yeah, I mean, Roughie, the other thing about it, which is quite annoying for people in Scotland, is the fact that even at his age, he could wear Speedos and get away with it. You know, because the body, the body's to die for, Roughie. I mean, honestly, I called him a poser, but I love watching him play. I think his professionalism is at a level that some people just can't comprehend. I mean, it's incredible what he's achieved as an individual. And by the way, Roughie, he started off as a number 7 and then moved to a number 9. It's incredible.
Yeah, I remember talking about it. There was a documentary on him, and it was absolutely fascinating. The scientists, or the modern day scientists, were testing him out and doing all these particular things, like volleying with the lights out and ultraviolet things and everything. And it was just so enthralling to watch the technique and the ability he had. You know, they were testing him how high he could jump for a standing jump and all that, and he was breaking all records. But for me, his highlight is we know all his club stuff, we know what he's done, but he's single-handedly taken Portugal to massive wins in major tournaments, and that's another thing that Messi hasn't done. I'm still a Messi fan. I don't have anything against Ronaldo at all. I just like the way Messi plays the game, and but I think the both of them are up there, obviously. But again, if we go into eras of where you are, as older, you still have to be pulled away for Pele. But the modern day should just enjoy these two while they're there. They're absolutely fantastic, and I wish Messi would leave Barcelona so we could see him up close and personal. You know, maybe over here in the English league, and he could just show everybody how good he is.
Yeah, well, I've seen him up close and personal on more than a few occasions, Roughie, playing in Spanish football and obviously playing against Scottish sides. he's outrageous. And Ronaldo's that good, Alison. I couldn't even get all my fingers in front of the camera there. I couldn't even work out how many I was putting up at the time. That's how good he is.
I think it's a great privilege for this generation. You've got two outstanding footballers who have performed at the top of their game for well over the last decade. Like Steven, I think the development of Ronaldo has been incredible to watch, from the excessive trickery, from the like trying to beat your man 2, 3, 4, 5 times, to what he then became, to what he developed into. His has been extraordinary, but it's just the sheer commitment, the professionalism, the love that he's clearly had, and the dedication that he's had for his sport. He's just he's a unparalleled athlete, I think, before he's even a footballer. But I think you just have to enjoy what the two of them have brought, because you might not have them around for too much longer.
Yeah, Thomas McDougall has said, Peter Martin, you've just told us one of your dreams, watching Ronaldo running about with Speedos on. No, I just basically have to tell you that if any of us and our mates on our weeks away on holiday had come out with Speedos on, we'd be getting leathered non-stop in the entire holiday. It just wouldn't happen. Apart from that, a couple of things I want to get your thoughts on, lads, before we go. Arsenal's win over Chelsea. Thomas Tuchel, only his second defeat since he took over, and he's not really happy. He didn't think Arsenal deserved the win.
You can say now it's an easy one to say this is totally lucky win, and nobody can argue with that. It is not a deserved win, not at all for Arsenal, but I don't want to go there for 100%, because I think that we all lacked concentration today. We lacked focus.
Hey, I'll tell you, it's down to the wire to see about this Champions League spot, Roughie. Nothing like getting rewarded for finishing third and fourth, eh?
Yeah, and your team are just hovering outside that fourth place, and they need to really get their act together in the next game that's coming up. I think Leicester, I thought they were going to be struggling a wee bit. Obviously, they've got that win under their belt now that gives them a wee bit of security. So, well, there's a point here. Who would you sacrifice West Ham for? Would you sacrifice Liverpool if West Ham get in the top four?
Say that again?
Would you be quite happy if West Ham get in instead of Liverpool on the fourth place?
Can I just... You of all people, since I've been with you for 9 years, you of all people should know I would do that, because David Moyes is my friend, and I would absolutely sacrifice Liverpool getting in. If Moyes gets them in, I'll be the first one on the phone to him to say absolutely magnificent, and any chance of us coming down to see a game next season with a couple of VIP tickets.
Yeah, and insist you're not eating the blank ink octopus.
Absolutely. Listen, you're right, Roughie. I would definitely say to Moisey, yep, get in there. I hope he does it. Fingers crossed. But it's going to be a tall order. The other thing, a couple of things here. Just a quick mention of something that popped up earlier that I thought was worthy of our comment is for my old pal from my days living in Edinburgh. We're great friends, still great friends, and I'm delighted to see he's back at Inverness. John Robertson, one of the greatest ever goal scorers that graced the pitch at Tynecastle. Absolutely no debate whatsoever. 27 goals in Edinburgh derbies. The wee man was a genius. And they've announced that John will return to the Caledonian Stadium as the first ever sporting director. He'd stepped down from the position as manager on compassionate leave in February, but he's going to take up this new role. He'll report to the CEO. And I think it's brilliant. And they're going to be looking for a position of head coach. Neil McCann might have put himself right at the forefront of it. I do not know. But great, Steven Naismith, to see Robbo back in football.
Brilliant. He's a great guy. Had the pleasure of seeing him round the training ground over the years. You can't get away from him if he starts a conversation, but overall he's a fantastic guy. Great guy around the squad in terms of the players he's worked with. They all speak very highly of him, so it's fantastic to see him back. And now obviously a new role.
Yeah, brilliant. And Roughie, the great thing about him is, I watched him and commented on him commentated on him scoring countless goals for the Jambos as well. And when I played alongside him, Roughie, he actually come up with just a great insight from a striker's perspective that some people don't actually think of, even professionals who've played the game for a long time. And he said, I am not moving outside this box. Get the ball into the box because I'm a striker and that's what I'm paid to do. And he was inside the box. He was anticipating the goalie dropping it in front of him. He was anticipating a run somewhere in there where you'll score a goal. And that's what he said. It was almost that Ron Seal moment of, I do exactly what it says on the tin. Yeah. I'm a striker, and strikers earn their money inside this 18-yard box. And if you look to the stats, there's very few outside it.
Yeah, you're right. And I think I can put my name against 25 of the 27 goals in the Hibs Hearts derbies. And I'll never ever forget the day with the derby game at Tynecastle. And it was a really wet day, really slippy day. And the ball got played through and I came out to sort of pick the ball up and I slipped. And obviously when I slipped, the wee man was there. And I swear to this day, I can still hear him laughing as he walked it into the goal to win 1-0. I can still hear him sniggering as he walked all the way into the goal with the ball.
Fantastic. But it's a great insight, Stephen, isn't it? I mean, some people, when I see people's clubs signing strikers and they're running down channels 25 yards from goal, I'm thinking, come on, you're a striker. You're paid to score goals. Yeah. Get in there.
They're the kind of guys who probably don't, it might be funny to say, trust their touch or trust their finish. Whereas guys like Robbo, Coisty, Boydie, that I've been around, all have so much faith in if they get the ball, they'll score goals. And that's what they've made a career out of and been arguably three of the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, it's a great, I love the way Stevie said that, Robbo, Coisty, Baldy, Boydie, you can't, I don't think you can be a world-class player unless you've got a vowel at the end of your name. Discuss. There you are. It's as simple as that. Who are you watching tonight, Alison? Man United, Liverpool or Aston Villa, Everton?
Man United, Liverpool, I think.
Yeah, who's going to win?
I don't know. I just wonder if Liverpool's situation is the necessary impetus for them to go and win it if they want to try and push for this European place.
Yeah, I'm not even going to ask you, Stephen, because if you don't say Everton, your mates will be on your case. You'll be getting absolute pelters, by the way. Roughie?
I wish you hadn't asked me that, Peter, because I've got a Bowls quarter-final tonight.
Oh,
so I'll just have to record it and watch it when I get in.
Rock and roll.
Yeah, Ali, that is exactly what I was thinking. A staff party. Whoever sits next to Roughie at the staff party has drawn the short straw. So there was only one bowl left and I had to get it near the jam. Yeah. Thanks for that, Roughie. Anyway, apart from anything else, thanks to the countless people who've obviously mentioned all the topics we've been discussing after a fantastic night of football in the Premiership last night. Of course, there's one more to go, one more weekend, and then, of course, playoffs. And that really is the nail-biting situation. But nevertheless, we want to thank you. Don't forget, you can now download the PLZ Soccer app in the Google Play and in the App Store as well. It's got all the latest breaking news, Scottish, English, European and world. And you can watch this programme, download the podcast to your heart's content and get all our unique content as well. And the shop's in there too. So well worth downloading our new app. It's absolutely fantastic. And we want to thank you for your support throughout the season. And hopefully it will continue as we continue to grow and get bigger and bigger on this programme and, of course, across PLZ Soccer. From Stevie, Alison, Roughie and myself, Peter Martin, thanks for watching.